Last week on Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News.
Yes, well, that was last week, which was Halloween, and this is this week.
Hi, I'm Cam Pippett, Technical Director of Arlington Weekly News. The show you're watching, or listening to right now, would have normally been recorded on the evening of October 31st, 2018. Since this was Halloween, and our studio time runs from 7:30 to 10 o'clock in the evening, we decided to cancel the studio session so that our cast and crew could be on hand for trick-or-treaters. The timing of these shows is always a little tricky. Although we pre-record on Wednesday evenings, the first television broadcast doesn't take place until 6 p.m. on Thursday, and the first radio broadcast goes out at 7 p.m. on Saturday. That means that a show recorded on Halloween is actually our first show for November.
Now I'll do the social media reminder announcement. You can watch the Arlington Weekly News on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Arlington Weekly News and the number 1. Also on Facebook.com Arlington Weekly News. And you can even hear us on the radio, 96.7 FM WERA. Tune in or I'll come and eat you.
Hello, I'm Mary Fantuccio. Welcome to the Arlington Weekly News. This week, we're going to start off with some ruminations.
Early November includes All Saints' Day on the 1st and England's Guy Fawkes Day on November 5th. There's not much in the way of commercial festivals in Arlington, but these are a few of the lesser-known dates. November 2nd is Plan Your Epitaph Day. Since it's observed annually, I imagine that you can build up a pretty fair number of epitaphs over the years. This year, the first Saturday in November is the 3rd, and that's when Sadie Hawkins Day is observed. It was the invention of Al Capp, appearing in his comic strip Lil Abner in the late 1930s. In the original story, the event was a race in which the organizer's daughter chased all the unmarried men in town to a finish line. If she caught one, he was obligated to marry her. November the 4th is observed as King Tut Day, but it turns out to be the day that British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered the entrance to Tut's tomb in 1922. On the one hand, it has nothing to do with King Tut's birthday, assumption of power, or any of his achievements. On the other hand, the person who did actually achieve something doesn't get credit. I guess people didn't think that Howard Carter Day was catchy enough. As I mentioned earlier, November 5th is Guy Fawkes Day. Some Americans refer to it as the English 4th of July, but that's just because it's often observed with fireworks. Guy Fawkes tried to blow up Parliament in 1605, but failed. If you're wondering why fireworks and bonfires are used to commemorate an explosion that never actually went off, you can chalk it up to British culture. Just close your eyes and think of Doctor Who. November 6th is National Saxophone Day, acknowledging the 1846 attempt by Adolphus Sax to create a squeak-proof clarinet. The reason it is observed on November 6th, having been patented on June 28th, is beyond me. Sax also invented the sax troma, sax horn, and sax tuba. Of those three, the sax horn has survived the best. November 7th is National Tongue Twister Day, but the name is much too easy to say. By the way, in addition to being National Saxophone Day, November 6th is also Election Day. So get on out to the polls and toot your own horn.
And now the news.
A $10,000 winning Mega Millions lottery ticket was sold last week at the 7-Eleven on 2nd Street South. It was the same drawing that produced a $1.5 billion winner in South Carolina. There's an interesting distinction. In South Carolina, winners are allowed to remain anonymous, unlike winners in Virginia. Maybe that's why some people say that nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina with a winning lottery ticket. Or maybe not.
This week, Arl Now featured a story rating the top 3 dog parks in Arlington. It was either a slow news week or everything else was too depressing. We've included it because some viewers like that sort of thing. Anyway, the top-rated dog park was James Hunter in Clarendon, with its solar-powered waterfall and $1.8 million price tag. Second place was given to Glen Carlin along the 4-mile run trail. The report mentions a learning loop for young cyclists, but does not indicate why this would be of interest to dogs. Third place went to Shirlington, which has separate play areas for large and small dogs. The article invited reader comments, but most of them contained a lot of lame puns.
Speaking of depressing, Arlington police report that 2 men broke into a pair of businesses in Crystal City on October 24th and stole cash. The suspects were described as a pair of black males wearing all dark clothing and a mask, one with white gloves and one with black gloves. The description leaves something to be desired since the robbers are likely to have changed clothing since then. What? The next big thing will run from December 3rd through December 9th, and it's AIM's year-end fund drive. In the face of diminishing support from the Arlington County government, AIM is attempting to maintain the quality of their service to the community by seeking viewer and listener support. There will be special on-air programming on both WERA 96.7 FM and AIM TV during the week. Be sure to tune in.
It's time for It's Easy Being Green.
As the weather turns cooler, it's time for a last look at Arlington's bat population. No, we're not going away. We don't fly south for the winter like some birds and some rich people do. We just hang around and hibernate. There are around 15 species of bats considered to be native to Virginia, and we've adapted well to suburban environments like Arlington. We're relatively non-destructive. We can't gnaw or dig like squirrels, so we can only enter buildings through existing openings. What little damage we do is mainly caused by feces and urine, and that consists of odor or stains. If you have a bat in your attic, you can drive it out with plain ammonia. Bats in your belfry is something else again. If you discover a bat in your house, don't panic. We eat insects, not people. Just call the Animal Welfare League of Arlington for assistance. That number is 703-931-9241. And remember, it's easy being green while being kind to your furry winged friends.
It's time for Community Bulletin Board, or CBB.
It's November again. And that means it's also time for the National Novel Writing Month Challenge. The goal is to write a 50,000-word novel between November 1 and November 30th. That's about 1,700 words per day. and it takes some doing. This particular event is a free workshop and is open to everyone, not just challenge participants. You'll learn basic tips and strategies for novel writing, as well as some of the basic preparation work that's involved. You'll have a little catching up to do because the event is set for Wednesday, November 7th from 6 to 7 p.m. at 2117 Crystal Plaza Arcade in Crystal City. Attendance is first come, first served.
The next event is a deep dive presentation, and it's intended for adults over the age of 18. The title is Built by Beavers, but don't let that fool you. It's actually an in-depth look at the natural history of beavers and their significant role in the history of both Canada and the United States. The cost is $5 per person, and registration is required. That's coming up on Thursday, November 8th, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. at Gulf Branch Nature Center and Park, 3608 North Military Road. For more information and to register, call Ken Rosenthal at 703-228-3403.
Here's an event for families with children aged 3 and up. It's the Virginia Squirrels Campfire. There's a lot more to squirrels than just raiding your bird feeder and digging up your freshly planted bulbs from your garden. Well, okay, they do that stuff as well. Anyway, this is a chance to learn about the 5 different kinds of squirrels that live in Virginia. Kids will also learn a special squirrel song and dance, along with possibly a couple of the less inhibited adults. The cost is $5, and kids must be accompanied by a registered adult. That's on Friday, November 9th, from 6 to 7 p.m. at Long Branch Nature Center and Park, 625 South Carlin Springs Road. To register, call 703-228-6535.
Show all the people who you be is or am, and come on down to the Sing and Strum Jam. Don't be afraid about forgetting a verse. After this performance, you can hardly do worse. As you can see, I believe in getting the unpleasant tasks out of the way first. Now it's time to tell you about the upcoming Sing and Strum Jam. It's a chance for folks to kick back and sing and or strum along to some common folk pop songs. It's a fun, informal way to practice your singing, acoustic guitar, or ukulele while you meet your like-minded neighbors. That's on Saturday, November 10th, from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. in the Storytime Room at the Columbia Pike Branch Library, 816 South Walter Reed Drive. Naturally, it's free, and attendance is first come, first served, y'all.
Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News has a long history of giving some airtime to local musicians. Here's a chance to hear some real singing and strumming from Rock Baker, appearing live at the Arlington Mill Farmers Market earlier this summer.
Well, they say he wore a white jumpsuit and a cape and a helmet that both were brown. That mobile was long and behind the glass at the Alabama State Fairground. Oh, Willie J. Perry's Batmobile, Willie J. Perry's Batmobile, Willie J. Perry's Batman Birmingham. Willie J. Perry's Batmobile, Willie J. Perry's Batmobile, Willie J. Perry's the Batman Birmingham. Well, the Batmobile was long and maroon, nothing fancy tops and flashing lights. Underneath the little Batmobile. He was called the glory lake one lonesome night. Oh, would you pair the Batmobile? Would you pair the Batmobile? Would you pair the Batman in Birmingham? Oh, would you pair the Batmobile? Would you pair the Batmobile? Would you pair the Batman in Birmingham? Well, the Batmobile, it was long and blue, with custom fancy tops and flashing lights. Underneath that old Batmobile, he was called the glory lake one lonesome night. Oh, would you pair this Batmobile? Would you pair this Batmobile? Would you pair this Batman Birmingham? Oh, would you pair this Batmobile? Would you pair this Batmobile? Would you pair this Batman Birmingham? Well, the Batman of Birmingham. Thank you guys so much.
And now we have news for seniors.
Some people think that watercolor painting is kids' stuff. That is until they try it themselves. In the hands of an artist like Winslow Homer, watercolor can be just as rich and vibrant as oil paint, and they can be a lot more challenging. However, this watercolor session is more relaxed. You can just come and try it out or dust off your existing skills. They'll even provide the supplies. That's on Wednesday, November 7th, from 6 to 7 p.m. in the Wilson Room at the Central Library, 1015 North Quincy Street. You can register online at the library website.
The heading of this next story, BYOB, might be a bit misleading. In this case, it's short for Bring Your Own Book, also known as the only book club with no assigned reading. Participation is simple. Just bring along whatever book you're currently enjoying, or not, and discuss it with the other participants. Librarians will also be on hand with some recommendations of their own. That's on Wednesday, November 7th, from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. at the Connection in Crystal City, 2100 Crystal Drive.
Coming up soon, it's the November meeting of Arlington's Comedy Club for seniors. You can bring in your own jokes. Age of the joke is no object. Or just listen and watch humorous extracts from literature, poetry, radio, movies, and television. That's on Wednesday, November
21st.
from 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at the Aurora Hills Community and Senior Center at 735 18th Street South.
And Cam is thanking Judy Masabny because I get up, and we're out.
Thanks to Judy Masabny for contributing to our senior stories. Thank you very much, Judy.
Now we have an interview with Miriam Gennari and her guest.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Sustainable Scoop. If you watch this show regularly, you know the focus is sustainability in our region, and I live here in Arlington, so that's one of the places I care most about. Right now, today, I have the pleasure of having Peter Rousselot with me. He's also an Arlington resident. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much. Enjoy it.
Well, listen, I'm so glad you're here because green space and park space and trees are all big issues to Arlingtonians. And I understand that there's a discussion that they're having at the county board level that could affect Arlington's residents 20 years in the future. Tell me about that.
That's right, Miriam. It's a very important discussion because for the last couple of years, Arlington has been trying to develop a master plan for the next 20 years to cover guidelines, create guidelines for our green space, sports fields, casual use of our parks, a 20-year planning document that will affect all kinds of decisions as we move forward. And this is going on while we're planning to grow. We're projecting population growth of 40,000 more residents between now and 2040. And so parks are going to be places that they'll all want to use, and we want to be sure that we're using them in the way that residents most want.
Well, not only that residents most want, but also recognizing that these are shared spaces. It's not like our schools where we need a seat for every student. We need space for people of all ages and all backgrounds. And I understand that one of the biggest issues, or the rubs, as they say, are the fields that are allocated to sports teams, as opposed to what Arlingtonians have really been demanding, which is more trails and casual space. Can you tell me about what's happening there?
Yes, well, a couple of years ago, the Arlington County government did a statistically valid survey of residents, and it asked them a series of questions about what were their priorities for using our parks. And as you just said, the highest priorities were trails, casual use space, open green space. Those were the things that they ranked the highest. And in this environment where we're having this increased population and increased demand for all different kinds of things, it's really important that we are using all of these facilities in accordance with what residents want, but also using them the most efficiently. We have to share, in some cases, things that in the past we may not have utilized as efficiently as possible.
And based on talking about efficiency, I mean, there is some data to calculate how often fields are used and when they're not being used and the general demand. But my understanding is that that information has not been incorporated into this 20-year plan. Can you explain why?
I wish I could explain exactly why, but it's absolutely true that data that has come from the files of the Department of Parks and Recreation that's in their files, they didn't use it to estimate how many fields we might need in Arlington. Instead, what they did is they used a methodology, something that they call population-based level of service. And it's supposed to, if it's done right, the way national consultants say it should be done, it should have incorporated data on actual utilization, supply, and demand of Arlington's parks, but they didn't really do that. And as a result, a group of residents discovered over a period of many months of asking questions and putting out Freedom of Information Act requests, they unearthed this data that the Department of Parks and Recreation actually had that showed a very different picture in terms of what the likely estimate of utilization should be.
I've looked at some of those numbers, and the discrepancy is wide. I mean, they're reaching out and saying in 20 years they could use 11 more field spaces, but based on the data right now, it looks like the space is underutilized and could probably be made available to more residents. So this is a critical time. I understand that most of the county board is inclined to go along with what the Department of Parks and Recreation has to say. John Weisstat did suggest that he would prefer look at the data and maybe do a separate study that really looks at what all Arlington residents want. Katie Crystal, I spoke to her, and she admits that, you know, the cost to the county for these additional spaces and maintaining them is great, not to mention there's a desire for all Arlingtonians to be able to utilize it. So what is this group trying to do? What is it that you're hoping to accomplish before this plan is signed off on?
Well, what we're hoping to accomplish is something along the lines of what John Weisstat was recommending, and that is that before this current methodology that's in the study that estimates that we need a lot more fields than we think we really will need, before that's set in stone for the next 20 years, or any number of years really, that we have this separate proceeding where we can have all parties, all citizens, residents, sports teams, people who want natural space.
All Arlingtonians,
all
the
Arlingtonians,
entire
that's right.
county of Arlington.
Right, before it's set in stone. And I know that Chairman Crystal has said, well, you don't have to worry about this because even if we enact this plan with this, what we consider to be really flawed approach, we could always look at this later when we're trying to plan an individual park.
Well, I think that having listened to a little bit from Eric Gutschall and then again from Katie, they do definitely recognize the concern and appreciate the work that you've done. Now we just have to make sure that it's incorporated into the plan. So what people should do right now to activate and reach out to the county board, what else can they do to get involved and influence this plan?
I think they should do everything that you just said. They should reach out to the county board. They should reach out to their civic associations. They should reach out to other people that they know in county government, and they should just urge them not to pass this plan until this issue is straightened out and the data that DPR actually has in its files is properly utilized, because millions and millions and millions of dollars could be wasted on in a way that we don't need to spend it.
And that's not sustainable. And I appreciate the fact that Arlington has always been about looking down the road long term for visionaries and wanting to always make this community a sustainable place for everyone, now and forever. So I want to thank you so much and your team, Peter Rousselot, for following this story and bringing it to us today. And I want to thank all of you for watching The Sustainable Scoop. If you go to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find places where you can sign up and maybe a change.org account or add your name to the list so that we can affect change in this particular area. Thanks so much, and back to the news desk.
Hi everybody, my name is Paul Mahood. I'm a cameraman at AIM. I love it here. It's a really great place to learn television production and to meet a bunch of cool people. And don't forget to support AIM with your donations and watch our show. Otherwise, it's just going to be me, the camera guy, as the only audience member seeing this. So, and I hope you have a good Halloween. Put out lots of candy. Chocolate is good. Don't put out Snickers bars, Milky Way, Reese's, but don't do those candy corns, please. No candy corns, please. That's terrible. And Mike and Ike's, oh my gosh, hot tamales, Swedish fish, just chocolate. That's all you need to know for Halloween is chocolate. Bye.